Hi, everybody. Welcome to the podcast. It may interest you to know. Today, I'm excited. We have a female, which I'm always a big advocate for, entrepreneur and specialist in the world of beauty. And I think what really impressed me the most is the way she goes at ingredients and healthy ingredients for her products. So, welcome with me, please, Kathleen London, to the podcast.
Yay!
And co-hosting with me today is my friend, actress extraordinaire, Samantha Jones.
Yay!
Yay!
So, Kathleen, we're going to dive right in. As I alluded to during my intro, I was really impressed with the fact that you are dedicated to beauty supplies that use either vegan products or are more health conscious. What drew you to that?
Well, it's a really long and winding path of oddities, but so my original life was in theater and acting, which is how I know Sam. And but that comes with such a level of artistry and art on so many levels, right? From like fashion and people who dig into the costuming to people who do the makeup and everything else, right? So I think I always had a hand in cosmetics and makeup. I was always fascinated. Like when I was 15, I'd beg my parents to get those huge box sets from like Estee Lauder, like when you'd buy $100 you could get the huge kit or whatever. I was always begging for that and sitting in front of the mirror doing my makeup. And so I was always intrigued by it, and it just played into the whole who can you be today, right? Like who do you want to be today, what do you want to be today vibe. And so then I realized in my acting life that I call it my lifestyle choice. I didn't want the lifestyle. Like I applaud people who stuck it out, but I didn't want the lifestyle of like bi-coastal struggle. I don't know. And so I started dabbling in fashion and ended up in luxury fashion. And during my time at Barney's, the main floor was my kind of purview, and I ended up taking care of all cosmetics and accessories. And so it was at a time.
Barney's is a big deal. I mean, that for anyone
doesn't know.
Yeah, that's
sad.
It's pretty high
sad
up
face
there.
Barney's. Yeah. Oh. So it was really cool, and I was there at a really cool time, and with really cool people and brands that were launching that were really cool. And so then I started becoming like a brand junkie. And I would sit with these makeup artists and with these skincare people and talk to them. And it was really cool. And then all that time I kept thinking like the Midwest particularly is often overlooked. The way brands merchandise to the Midwest, it's like we're all still wearing like whale turtlenecks and khaki pants. Like they don't see it's flyover states is what, New Yorkers refer to the Midwest as. And there's a ton of like sophistication and money and people who travel and are super well educated. And so they shop elsewhere because they don't have access here. So growing like as I continued to grow in my career, I kept thinking, man, I mean, it was simple things. Like I'd go home to Ohio and I couldn't find buffalo mozzarella. Like that's weird. Like I was having buffalo mozzarella in Italian restaurants in New York all the time. Like, how do we not have that? And it progressed, which sounds like a total disconnect, but you kind of realize like from the simplest things in food to the most expensive luxury item, like they just jumped the middle. So I always thought it'd be cool to do an apothecary style store like Barney's had. And I finally got to the point in my life, I was like coming back to the Midwest because I'd fallen in love and was going to be here. And I thought, if not now, when? If not me, who? Like, why am I not doing this? So I jumped off the bridge, and 18 months before a pandemic, had I known. And there we go. I worked on the brand concept, and it had been brewing for a long time. And the ingredient portion is a strange addition because obviously 20 years ago, that wasn't really a thing, but also eating organic wasn't really a thing. So what happened was, as I engaged more with these brands, you hear these stories of brand founders who had cancer or who had skin conditions or who had issues. And it was a well-known fact in the medical industry that if you were involved in beauty and cosmetics, a lot of what you were putting on your skin were carcinogenic or not good for you. So lipstick had lead, there were hormone disruptors in your products and things. So think about it this way. If there was a tomato sitting on the table and it looked perfectly ripe and delicious, and you were like, oh, I want to eat that. And your friend was like, it's a year old. And you're like, no problem, I can eat it. It still looks good. That's how cosmetics were. They were making year and 2-year-old tomatoes. And so it looked great, but it could sit on a shelf for 2 years. So what's in that then you're putting on your skin? So some of these people who'd been involved in the industry forever kind of knew it wasn't good stuff. So they wanted to create a more transparent industry, right? Because eating a Twinkie isn't going to kill you, but eating a Twinkie every day might not be so great. So that's how clean kind of came to be. And then because I was in that kind of more luxury high-end market, the talk was about that. How do we take performance skincare and take it out of Whole Foods, the clean stuff, and make it feel luxurious to that luxury client, to that Barney's type client? How do we make a product that isn't going to kill them and still give you that experience? So that's how I ended up there.
Well, I think that's true. I mean, in terms of years ago, nobody gave thought at all to a lot of things. I guess if you go back probably 50, 60 years ago, you didn't have the cancer rates you have now. And food was more localized. Farmers grew food, grew their crops or had even animals, but it was local that they distributed their food. And as business grew and they wanted to sell their products, to make a cake here and deliver the cake in California a week later and have a shelf life of another 2 weeks, preservatives started coming around and filling up the food base, and a lot of the preservatives and the things we put in our food to color it and to make it look well, and the same with cosmetics, to make things last longer, be able to have them travel and still look good. Right.
Well, I also think you can't negate the technology. Like, think about like Star Trek, right? Like the flip phone thing that's now like our cell phone. Like, there was a lot of stuff going on where it was like, ooh, this is sciencey, like the kitchen of the future. So there was this whole idea that adding all that chemical stuff meant we were progressing. You know what I mean? Like, there was a disconnect there. Like, that seemed like progress because we weren't so tied to the land. And so Wonder Bread and all those things, American cheese, I think in the 60s, 50s and 60s were like the thing of the future, right? Until we realized cheese doesn't look like that.
Well, years ago, doctors used to go on and do commercials for cigarettes, like, healthy people smoke, and would tout a particular brand as being healthy.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing with skincare. Like, I am here to tell you, there is no silver bullet. There is no, like, Botox is Botox. You can't get around it. If you want none of this to move, you're going to have to do Botox or filler. You don't want any of this filler. It's going to be filler. It's going to be Botox. But there is a science and there is a blend of things for centuries that people have done to help maintain their wellness. And it's a combination. Are you drinking water? Are you taking care of yourself? Are you getting 8 hours of sleep? And oh, by the way, are you taking care of your skin, right? Your skin's your biggest organ. And if you're putting junk on your skin, not washing your face at night, or, you know, like the thing that about vegan that I find fascinating is vegan doesn't mean clean. Vegan can have petrochemicals. So it's where's your personal line, right? So it's
Right.
more about having transparency so that you can choose, maybe I want a cream that's going to do some stuff, right? Really get in there and, but I'll make sure that I'm avoiding these ingredients, or, you know, instead of, you know, or I'll use cleaner makeup, or I'll, you know, I'll just do Botox, but I won't do filler. Like whatever, wherever your line is, no judgment, right? Like it's wherever your line is. And that's where beauty is coming to. And I think we wanted to sit in this space that we were really sick of the lack of inclusion in beauty. And I don't just mean inclusivity in terms of like color. I mean, the lipstick glitter cut crease girls were critical of lip balm, natural, grow their hair out girls. And like, it seemed like these camps were dividing us as women, that you couldn't wear lipstick one day and lip balm the next day, that you had to be this person, right? Feminine meant X, right? Crunchy granola meant Y. And we were dividing ourselves into camps. And I think you can be any of those people on any given day. I don't think you have to be just one. You can be super glammy one day, and you can be rock and roll the next, and you can be, you know, a hippie, you know, lip balm, freckled girl the next day. Like, you don't have to be one thing for the rest of your life. You can be all those things. And I think that's where we really try and sit. So we want to educate you so that you can make those choices each day as the day proceeds, right? And in our life, we're going to change how we are based on our job, based on our life, based on what's happening. So we want to give people choice. And that's where we kind of land.
So at this point, you as you said, you relocated to Michigan, and now you have 2 stores under the London Beauty brand. And so why don't you talk about the opening of those 2 stores?
So again, you know, I have a little bit of that cosmic belief that, you know, kind of, if not mean like who, if not now when, like it'll come together as it comes together thought process. If you ask me where I'm going to be in 5 years, I am not that person. I was like, I'm opening a store. Is it going to work, or am I going to be in a van by the river? I don't know. Like, I don't know how this is going to go. Like, we're just going to see. So, you know, you obviously make all the plans and you do the best that you can. And I kept looking for space. I moved out here. So I was hiking in the woods one day by my house, just kind of like mulling over the disaster that was my not being able to find a space. Because I had a website. I was launching a website, but that wasn't going to do it. A lot of brands won't commit to letting you sell them unless you have a physical door. So I got my car and I drove down Main Street in the town I lived in. And there was this little tiny old wreck of a building that was 700 square feet. And I called and it was available. And the woman was like, yeah, I want it to be retail. What do you do? And she was expecting me to say, you know, realtor or mortgage person. And I said, no, I want to do this cosmetic thing. And she was excited because she owned a store next door, which was denim and clothing. So long story short, turns out we knew a tons of the same people. She was psyched to have me move next door. She even helped more with the build out than I would have ever thought someone would have. Like, her husband was an architect, so they helped me gut the space and did a lot of the bare bones work to make the building work. And I opened in 2018, summer of 18, because the pandemic was 2020, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it would have been the summer of 18. So by the spring of 2020, I was shut down. So 18 months in. So we just started to hit our stride. Like we just kind of found our role. We just figured it out and we shut down for the pandemic. But that's where I was really grateful that I had the background I had. And we already had a website. We already had e-com. We already had an Instagram and social following. So then it just became about that, pushing that. And then as we started to come back alive, as everyone did, right? We had survived, yay. My life was starting to feel like a little easier. I got this call, you know, like
a little harder.
So yeah. So, you know, I'm like, okay, things are settling down. This is gonna be great. I can have a good summer. I've got employees, like everything is like cooking. And I get this call from a distributor who's a friend, and she said, hey, would you ever want to buy another business? And I was like, probably not, but why? And she said, well, someone locally is thinking about retiring. I think you two should talk. And I was very like, me. And I met with the woman who owned the store that I ended up purchasing. And now it is a London Beauty, but at the time it was called Lily Grace, and it had been here 10 years and I knew the store. It's beautiful. And we met and jammed, and she's an amazing human and had built this amazing business and was tired. She was like, I don't want to do this anymore, but I don't want to just flush 10 years of work. And I get that. She'd worked really hard for 10 years. So, so we talked and negotiated, and here I am at 2 stores. So yeah, just as it got easy, it got a heck of a lot harder. Why sit still? I don't know.
Right, exactly, right.
Right?
Oh my goodness. I think it'll be a franchise. Before you know it, baby, it's going to be all across America.
Well, I mean, think about it, Sam. Like, that was always the thing. I was like, I don't know, this acting thing, it's really hard. You got to keep hustling. Like, I just want a paycheck. Yeah. Like, what do you think I'm doing now? Like, hustling 3 times. Like, it's like,
exactly.
I just stuck it out. I don't know.
Right. Yeah,
jeez,
not that
man.
different. You're just selling something else.
Exactly. And isn't that the funny thing, that when you start looking at, I think, any path, right? You kind of come back to what you do, right? And
yes,
you're always in that same zone of what you do. And acting and that art of communicating is such a part of what I do, which is so funny because literally, what was I running away from? I just ended up straight back here. But because I couldn't hack it in corporate America, it just made me want to blow my brains out. Like, I could not be that corporate person. Like, when colored hair became a thing, I remember that, like, coloring my hair pink, and I went to my real estate thing and I was like, because I was like, somebody tell me I can't have pink hair. Because I was so like, don't even tell me I have to be a certain way, right? Like, I couldn't handle the cookie cutterness of it. So I always had to work for these slightly off kilter or slightly rock and roll companies, because I could not handle being that like suity, corporate-y. Couldn't do it. So I wanted to, because it felt like it was going to be easier, but so here I am.
Established you don't want easy.
Right? I think in grade school, like, I missed the memo about, like, I missed the day the assignment was given where you should like just shoot for like the money.
Yeah.
Like, I missed that assignment altogether. Like, that day I must have been sick because I did not get that memo. Like, the make it about the money. I did not get that memo. So yeah.
Thank goodness, because a lot of people did get that memo and it's not that great.
Super didn't get that memo. I don't know, the like 80s bling it out, marry the rich person and sit at home by your like drinking cocktails. Like, I did not get that assignment. So here I am.
Well, your products, I mean, they're also available online, right? You can
Yeah.
go online and order. It's not just for the people in Michigan, but
No.
rather available anywhere.
Yeah, and it is. It's
Everywhere.
but everywhere, anywhere. And the fun thing is, like, this is the thing Sam and I have been giggling about, is that like I have clients who've become friends who are lawyers, doctors, stay-at-home moms, yoga instructors, whatever. And they all come in with the same issue. Like, what do I do? Like, I don't know what to do. Like, I have a client, she goes to court and she loves fake eyelashes, like loves them. And she didn't really, she just knew she liked that, but she didn't know what else to do. And she knew she had to look appropriate in court, right? Like, you got to look a certain way in front of the judge. Mm-hmm. So she was like, I like being this like girly girl, but how do I translate that? But then like you have the yoga mom who's like, I don't want to look like a hot mess when I'm going to yoga and after yoga when I'm running around with my kids, but I don't need a whole lot. I just need to not look like a disaster. So everyone kind of had the same messaging of like, I'm watching YouTube and they're telling me to put red lipstick under my eyes. Should I do that? No.
No.
Please don't. So like, you know, everybody has like is sitting there with their teenager watching YouTube, or they are a teenager watching YouTube and saying like, oh my gosh, do I do this? Do I do that? I don't know. Should I do this? Am I this person? I don't know. And so that's what we do. We help you funnel through that information. And during the pandemic and even now, you send an email through the website, you send us a DM through social media, you're talking to us. So if they're like, hey, I'm blah, 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 and we're like, oh, hey, so-and-so, I remember you from last week. So it is more personal in that way, which is really nice compared to like a lot of women who are a little bit older. And when I say a little bit older, I mean over 30. They go to Sephora and they don't like it anymore. They're like, I have to weed through all this stuff. I want someone to tell me. I want someone to help me. I want guidance. And so that's really where we fall. So we try and give you the most information about the products that we've got that are cleaner, and we can get super clean or less clean or anything in between, so that you can feel comfortable, right? And have what you need and not feel like you're at a loss or don't know what to do on any given day.
And I assume you're using your expertise in light of their situation, not only what their wants are, you know, like you said, I don't want to be a hot mess, or I want to look professional while still, you know, looking a particular way. I get that, but also I assume you take into consideration their particular situation, and do they have fair skin? Do they have oily skin? Do they have? I mean, you know, you do some level, I would imagine, of questionnaire or evaluating before you start giving advice. Am I right?
Yeah. So we're never going to say we're your dermatologist. If you have dramatic issues, you need to see a professional. That's not who we are. But obviously it's about like human understanding, right? So sales, like so many things, you're tapping into a baseline. You want to listen, but also gathering details about the person just from the minute they walk through your door, right? Their body language, what they're doing, asking some simple questions, like just like, what are you about doing today? Or, oh, this is great. Like just starting a conversation with them. And I mean, we have people like that just completely run the gamut, and then they come in and they're sad because, you know, maybe something's going on for them and they want to look better, or they're having a hormonal problem. People who are transing too, like that's a whole hormone roller coaster if they're going to trans. So, you know, you have people like that who are like, what do I do? Right. Young women or women who are going through menopause, or young women who are like hormonal through their systems, you know, you start talking to people and they tell you things. And you just kind of have to tap into that. And I always say, hey, report back. How did it go? Tell me. I want to know. Like, I do want to know. How did you like it? How did you like the event? Like, how did you like how you looked? Is the skincare working? Come back and tell us. Take a sample, right? Be invested in people. So, I mean, obviously, because Sam's here, we can talk about this, but it's like in acting that just say yes, but also you don't just say your lines, right? And the person on the other side isn't just ticking it off to wait until you do your lines and then they say their lines. It's actually meant to be a conversation. So you have to actively listen.
Yeah.
There has to be an activity in those lines. You can't just rotely say them or no one will ever believe it.
It's interesting. I think what you're saying too, now it's making me realize in my own process, because now I'm also a customer. And, the process of makeup and thinking about makeup, even on the smallest level, is very vulnerable. Like for me, I mean, I think I've done the same thing my whole life. And in the time that I've been working with my friend Kathleen, I've thrown out all my old crappy makeup, and she's, now I have like my simple stuff. I know how to use it. It works for me. And she's even done tutorials for me to show me how to put it on. And you would think someone like me who's been acting her whole life would know how to do all of this, and it would be a no-brainer. And in a certain way it is, but on the other hand, it's like, it's connected to confidence, I think. And I've heard like Kathleen and I are chatting when she's slow at work, and I'll hear some woman come in, and Kathleen's like, "Hey, what's happening?" And then the woman will be like, I think I need a mascara." It's so funny. Like, I'm going into a store. It's not a drugstore. I don't know if I want to be here. Is she going to sell me a pile of stuff and 900 products?
Right.
It's just like this, like, I just want some lipstick. And Kathleen's like, "Sure, let's just talk about it," and it's so human. And I feel like it's maybe the way it was a long time ago before department stores took over cosmetics. Like I remember going into a Macy's or some store in the city, and some woman sold me all of this aging makeup, and I was 22. And she sold me like $200 worth of like creams and makeups, and was telling me how I was wrinkling and all this stuff. And Kathleen knew me at this age. I was not wrinkling. And I was just taken. Like, she just took my money. You know what I mean? And I think that's what the industry has become on so many levels. And that's why this is so refreshing.
Well, and it is, I will say, there is a certain level of, as women, there's so much expected of us. We're supposed to stay fit and look pretty and be a certain way. And if we don't fit those molds, then we're like fighting the man and we're doing the thing. Like, there are all these rules about what it is, right, to be a woman. And one of the things that I've talked a lot about with people here is that masculinity and femininity are qualities. They're not like a condition. So you can express those qualities however you want to express them. Like, why do you have to be trapped by like femininity is long hair and masculinity is short hair? Femininity is big boobs, masculinity is no boobs. Like, why are all these things a thing? Like, big lips are super sexy, but little lips are really aging. Like, all of a sudden when you start looking at those things, and here's the funny thing, because we're all on frickin' Zoom and all on camera and from a very young age, women are seeing themselves. But for Gen Xers, this is a new thing to see yourself regularly talking and speaking and moving, right? So you see all those women with their faces like totally blurred out. So they have like zero lines.
Yeah.
And I was doing something the other day, and it bugs me because I have one like side of my lips it's this side that doesn't move the same way as the other, like it's flatter. I saw a picture of myself from like back in the day. I was like, oh my God, it was the same way. But as you get older, you automatically assume it's some like horror of becoming old. And we all do this, and then we're seeing ourselves on camera. So I get why injections happen and people want this like silver bullet to change how they look, because we're not symmetrical and perfect. But that's what gives us like our personality and who we are. And so all these stipulations that we're supposed to tie into, I'm supposed to wear this or have that or be this way or that way. We kind of want to blow all that up. It's weird coming from someone who sells makeup. But I mean, seriously, like, I don't know why. Why can't you just wear some great skincare and take care of your skin?
Yeah.
Like, let's do that. And maybe that's you one day, but then the next day it's fake eyelashes and red lips. I don't know. Why do we have to fall into one category? Why can't we play in the full spectrum?
Yeah, that's very
so. I think it's
unusual,
really
Kathleen. That's
cool.
Unusual.
It's unusual.
Your viewpoints
Maybe
are amazing.
But I wouldn't like this as my significant other, Ian, who says to me all the time, he's like, Kathleen, we're not all in your private utopia. I'm like, I know, but can't we just all get along? I don't know. So whatever, if that's just me, and I make mistakes and I'm an asshole too, but you know, and we all are, but isn't it cool when you start thinking about it, right? Like, why isn't it just qualities? And so today I get to express this quality, and that comes with red lipstick and winged liner. I don't know, because that's my default position. Because when I'm bored and tired and I don't want to do makeup, I can put on winged eyeliner. Should be my next tutorial, actually.
Yeah.
Winged eyeliner and some lips, and I'm like, I got this day.
So good.
Right? So, you know, but then again, I can spend the entire summer on the boat with my super frizzy hair that hasn't been washed in forever, because my hair is actually blown out within an inch of its life today. But I usually have very curly poodle hair, and all summer, like no makeup, curly hair, boat, when I'm not working. Ha ha ha. Which is hardly ever. But, you know, like, I don't have to have makeup on every day. Why? Because why should I have to? It doesn't define who I am.
Well, I think this is an important message to get out there. Your opinion is really spot on. And what I like a lot about it is I think it's important to have options, right? And acceptance, because I think for years, it was common for women in particular, to feel always the pressure to look perfect in all situations, and perfect meant, facially to have, everything, your makeup always in place, your hair always in place, to have a particular look that was common, that the next door neighbor had, that. I think that's a common thing, how it was for years. And I think it's important to get the message out there. It's okay to be who you are, to be comfortable in your own skin. And beauty is, I know years ago, right, they used to say beauty's in the eye of the beholder. But that's very true. I mean, beauty takes on all different forms. And sometimes there's incredible beauty with plain and simple. And there's
think about
the
significant others or your close friends or the people in your life usually look at you and say, wow, you look really good today, or something, because you're feeling either confident or rested or in your own skin in some ways. Like, Sam, you talked about that, like how long it took you to get super comfortable just being still on camera.
Oh, yeah.
Which is terrifying.
Right.
To just be still, let the double chin be there, let the whatever's happening, whatever, like just
allowing people to look at you and
terrifying,
just sitting in it. And then
terrifying.
Whatever that does, the energy shifts, and suddenly it's so incredibly grounding when you can get to that place where you're just like, this is it,
Yeah.
I'm not this, I'm just this. You know what I mean? I'm just me, you know?
Right.
And allowing people just to see you. Because I think what we see is different from what we think people see when they're looking at us. You know?
Yeah.
Like we're looking at each other, like the Botox stuff, right? People are looking at themselves under these microscopes with these mirrors that are making their faces, 500 times bigger than their actual face. And they're like, oh, there's a wrinkle. I'm going to put something right in there, right? And no one's looking at that or cares about that.
Well, the celebrities who've done so much and they're looking like Cabbage Patches.
Yeah.
And that's been something even for me as in terms of like judgment, is realizing like we all are going to color our opinions. Like there's just no way about that. But can we be kind? Because then you'll find something out about why that person makes that choice, whether it's fear or a loved one or whatever it is. There's always a point of view behind it, and can we be kind about that, and help facilitate giving them the option of being the best version of themselves, whatever that is. Because sometimes what I think is going to be the best version of someone is not what they want. It's just not. They're like, I want more, or I want way less, or whatever it is, they want that. And that's okay too. And that's where it gets, I think I'm learning as I move forward, it's like to get your ego out of the way as much as humanly possible. And it's hard. It's really hard. It's hard to do, but it's really cool when you can.
Yeah.
It's really cool because then you connect with a person and you get to be their mirror. You get to reflect them back to them. And that's really cool. And so when you make those connections and you get to be their mirror and see them for who they are, and who they want to be, and then they feel more confident and comfortable. And that's really cool because they may have all the confidence in the world. This woman who's an attorney, like super confident, but still when it got right down to it, a lot of it was war paint, right? She was just doing stuff because she felt like she had to.
Yeah.
But there was one thing she wanted to keep. And then she realized like, oh, I can do this and I can do this. And then I can still feel this way. So, and we all have it.
War paint. That would be a great cosmetic line name, wouldn't it?
Well, that's that musical. The musical with Faith Prince and about Estee Lauder and Georgette Klinger.
Oh. Yeah, I don't know.
It's the war between those two big female businesses, because Georgette Klinger in New York was a huge place to go for facials and getting like old school, like Eastern European, like skincare.
Yeah.
And then Estee Lauder, obviously.
Yeah.
The Red Door.
Right.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, this has been going on. This conversation has been going on forever and ever and ever. But now we have all these different options and we can make these choices. And that's where it gets into like, we have all the technology, but is it what we like smoke? Like you were saying, smoking, right? Like people were smoking because they thought it was health beneficial. They were telling asthmatics to smoke, like somehow the smoke would clear their back in the turn of the century. Like, let's smoke this and that will help with the asthma. Because that makes sense. But, looking at skincare and cosmetics, they were putting stuff in thinking, well, this is going to help anti-age or reverse this or do that. And it's hormones. What is that doing in turn to, it's going into your bloodstream, it's going into your skin. Right.
It's like in your food.
Yeah.
Hormone-filled food.
Yeah. And if it's just every once in a while, it doesn't matter. But if it's every day, the lipstick you put on every day, the skincare you put on twice a day, that adds up. One of the brands that we sell, Indie Lee, she had brain tumor, cancer, blah, 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 cosmetic industry related, blah, blah, blah. And she was saying that like she did all this research while she was waiting to get this tumor removed. That women hit their toxic load at like 30 years old. Your body has hit its toxic load by 30. That's bonkers.
Not cool.
I mean,
No.
but think about sunscreen. Let's start with just sunscreen. There, Hawaii, Florida, Australia, they've banned traditional sunscreen to protect the reefs because it was not allowing it was bleaching out the reefs because they couldn't photo regenerate. So if that's what's happening in the ocean, what's happening to us? Vitamin D deficiencies, vitamin C deficiencies, like skincare right now, the next big buzzy thing is going to be vitamin D and potassium in your skincare. Why? Because we're not eating right, because we're not getting sun, because we're not, it's a cycle.
Well, talk to us about clean ingredients, the kind of ingredients women should stay away from and or look for in their healthcare products.
So anything that's a petrochemical, you don't want. Pretty much if you don't recognize the name, you're probably not going to like it. Good skincare. Now, there are obviously exceptions to every rule. And like there are certain debates that will always be debated, like dimethicones and silicones. There's a debate about whether they're good in skincare because they can, they create like a film on your skin. And so you have to make sure you take it off or you're going to like congest your skin. It'll like clog it. Your skin needs to breathe. But honestly, that's what gives your makeup slip. It's what gives things that like velvety texture. So is it bad? No, it's not harmful at all. And if you take it off, like there's nothing wrong with it. But that's like hotly debated in clean cosmetics. Is dimethicone, silicone, or silicones good? But this is that like weird slippery
plastic. That's silicone.
It doesn't have to be. Yeah, silicone. I mean, silicone is sand. That's refined. Silica is like a sand. So, I mean, getting into the chemistry of things, each brand is going to find, but if you can, and again, so it can be consciously created, right? So it has cleaner ingredients, but where is your personal line? So maybe it's clean, but they're sourcing the mica for the shiny eyeshadow or for the eye cream from child mines in Africa.
Oh God.
Or right? I mean, but this is like, or you like this clean skincare, it comes in a glass bottle from Europe, and the petrochemicals used to ship it to you in the United States is more than if it had just been in a plastic bottle. So like these are all conversations that you have to have with yourself because there's no hard line. The hard lines get into like, are you allergic to something? Okay. Are you celiac? Are you, do you have a skin condition concern? Are you, there are certain things that people like pomegranate or whatever. Okay. So you want to avoid that in your skincare, papaya or sunflower oil. But for most people, it's fine. And
what
then
about carcinogenics? I mean, I assume there's still several companies using ingredients that are carcinogenic.
And that's where like you want to do your homework, and there's like there are a bunch of websites that you can go to and flag, but that's where it's like, okay, is one Twinkie bad with its hormone because it'll help you make it feel a little more confident? Is it bad if everything else around it is okay?
Yeah.
I don't like, and I'm not saying it's okay. We should be getting rid of all those things. The United States has like 30 things banned and Europe has like 1,500 things banned. So don't get me wrong. Like there are 100 things that should be gone from our skincare, and there are thousands of lists, and I never remember the names, and I always have to look them up because they're crazy. But you have to just take it upon yourself to say, okay, what's my line? Do I want to find cleaner, right? Like, should I pick cleaner things? Because there are things like I don't ever want to give up, right? Like certain things, like a really great inky mascara. It was only until recently that they figured out how to replicate good mascara without there being coal tar in it. But I wasn't going to give up my mascara. I can tell you that much. I was like, my ride or die is like mascara and concealer. So I wasn't going to give those up. But now they have better mascaras. So like, where's the line, right? I don't know. It's so individual. And that's where people pushing on the bow of the ship saying, how do we make this better? How do we make it cleaner? How do we make it more transparent? How can women know what they're getting? And I can pretty much guarantee you, if you buy it on a shelf of a drugstore for $5, it is unlikely to be quality level ingredients that you want.
There's an app called Think Dirty that I've used that you can type in the name of whatever you're buying.
That doesn't mean what it sounds like it means.
No. It's completely about what junk is in your skin stuff. And so I've put in, you know, whatever, like if I'm thinking about getting a moisturizer, I'll just check that app and it gives it a grade depending on how many chemicals are in it. And if it's like totally green, then it's all healthy. And if it has like a little bit of pink in it, then it's a little bad, you know? So then you'd make your choice.
And it's going to be obviously dependent on where you are in your life as to how much pink versus how much green you want to take on. And it's like anything, it's a conversation that just needs to happen.
It does.
Because we have to, as women, it was an industry geared at us, and men didn't care. Yeah. I mean, men didn't care. So because it didn't affect them. So, and this isn't me picking at men. They're welcome to the campfire too. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that, you know, it was driven at us as so many other things. And so I think we have to take up our own mantle and stop infighting with each other over it and say like, okay, maybe the girl who's young and trying to get pregnant needs to be careful of hormone disruptors, right?
Right.
The
person needs to get out, I think. You know?
Right. Or if you're, you know, a cancer survivor or you're going through chemotherapy, what do you need? I was having a wild conversation with my massage therapist who works here. And she was saying that one of the things that she found is that when you're going through chemo or you're ill, people stop touching you. And that massage is so important because people are afraid to touch you because they think you're fragile and they're worried about you, so they don't want to touch you. And so she said it's such a healing thing to be touched when you're ill, because people pull back and shy back from it. And I started thinking about that. I was like, oh my gosh, that's very true in so many ways. And that's where, like, I think as an industry, people are starting to speak up and say, just because you're sick doesn't mean you want your roots growing out, right? Like you can still, or just because you're sick doesn't mean you don't want to be touched, or just because you're old, like whatever that definition is, doesn't mean that you can't still look really gorgeous.
Right.
You know, like there are no rules to this game except that we all need to talk about it and have that transparent label that we can look at and say, like, these 5 things are important to me. The rest of it, whatever. But like when you flip over a box, a lot of times the first things you see are like water, dimethicone, glycerin, alcohol, cetyl alcohol. None of those things are particularly bad. But what are you paying for?
Yeah.
Well, and like Samantha and I are both, we have in common, right? We're both cancer survivors. So we both tend to try to go clean whenever possible, right? We both eat really well. In my case, I think I'm slightly more plant-based, whole food diet, but I know Samantha, you are right behind me in how you're very much into
Right.
fruits and veggies and eating
Like,
clean.
yes, I'll eat chicken like once a week, but it has to be like, I know it's free range, I know it's cage free, I know it's hormone free, like, that kind of stuff.
Exactly. So we
Yeah.
both started focusing on what we were doing in our lives to add to, any besides the obvious, the stress. But there's so much of a component related to what we eat, what kind of products we use that most people don't realize are cancer causing. Most people don't realize how carcinogenic certain foods are, and what they're putting in their body and how it matters. If I said to you, most people will know about a car. Oh, I put in a quality gasoline to the car because I want it to run better. I don't want it to ruin the engine. You've got to, and well, if you put in a quality gasoline to run your vehicle, I mean, you certainly need to put in quality ingredients into your person to run your person at the best it can be, because the human body is kind of made to heal itself, given the right opportunity and given the right fuel to
The
do that.
fuel, yes.
Yeah.
So true. Oh my God.
So Samantha and I both are really big on looking for clean, non-carcinogenic things, because we don't, I want to give myself the best chance I possibly can. And if you told me I had a 30% chance of never going back and never having lapsing out of remission by doing this, I would do it. I would take whatever, not to go back. I would take whatever benefit I could from eating clean and changing my life, which is what I ultimately did. Divine tap on the shoulder totally changed my life after my diagnosis. So that trickles down for me into everything I do, right? And Samantha and I have had this conversation,
We're like crazy people. Like she told me, like every day I have ginger and I have cranberries and like this whole list that she does, and it's on my shopping list permanently on the fridge, so I don't forget to eat these things every day.
Oh my God.
And that's why I do only Kathleen. I only talk to Kathleen when I'm dealing with this stuff, because what the hell do I know? I don't. I'm like,
well,
is it okay? Am I okay? Is this okay?
I know. Am I okay?
Yes, right.
And it is, but that's what I'm saying. Like, it's everyone's line in the sand, right? So like, we have clients who they'll come in and they're like, I don't care if it'll get rid of my wrinkles. I don't care. That's their line in the sand. And then I have clients who only want like organic, farmed, naturally grown. Okay, that's good too. But P.S., essential oils in your skincare can be irritating to your skin. So you have to find the right balance of that to make it make sense. Right. And I can tell you, there are so many brands out there that are clean that started from a cancer story. I can list them. So many brands that started from a cancer story. Their grandfather had cancer, they had cancer, their sister had cancer, whatever the case may be. Right. From that seedling, or they had an issue and they went traditionally to the dermatologist, couldn't get healed, and then went into their kitchen and was like, all right, I know aloe helps me, I know whatever helps me. So then they started figuring it out and reading about old stuff and herbs and blah, 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 and made their own, and then kaboom. So I don't know. I think it's a fascinating thing, because we deserve the right to know what we're doing, and we deserve the right to have the choice. And everybody has the right to make that choice for themselves, because the more voices that say, hey, like, I just want the transparency, I just want to know. Yeah. Because then I can choose to say yes or no.
Well, how come you look at what happened with Johnson & Johnson, right? Johnson & Johnson had all these lawsuits because essentially there was really arsenic, in the baby powder, right? And it was known to them for years that it had carcinogenic effect on women, and it was causing ovarian cancer. They didn't put a warning. And that's what ultimately leads to the downfall. Had they put a
Right.
warning on the product, they probably would. I mean, you can never say never, but they probably wouldn't have been found liable. It's the lack of transparency. It's the lack of telling women who could then make
Yep.
an informed decision. Like, hey,
Yep.
I may glow in the dark if I use this, so I'm not going to. It allows them the opportunity.
Claire's, that jewelry store, like where they have like,
Oh yeah, where they pierce
Claire's in the
everybody's
mall.
ears. Yes.
They had a children's cosmetic line that had arsenic in it. Nobody even hears about it. They just pulled it. But they didn't get in trouble, or they got in trouble and made it go away. Whatever they did.
Yeah, maybe they didn't know.
But I mean, but it's been going on for years. There were remember on old watch faces, there was that like glow in the dark paint. It was like blue and it would like glow in the dark. On like if you look at vintage watches, the girls who would paint that used to wear it as eyeliner. Kind of cool because it's like bioluminescent, right? I would have totally done that.
Yeah.
It's like radioactive.
Oh.
Right.
So these girls in these factories, they weren't telling them, and they were licking the brushes to paint and then also putting it on their eyes.
Oh my God.
And these girls, these factory workers, these girls with the fine painting skills were all dying of like jaw cancer and horrible, horrible diseases because nobody said anything.
Now you don't, but this is, I guess, what I'm getting at. There for years have been carcinogenic ingredients in makeup, but
still are.
But there's no warning on the label,
No.
right? I can't pick up a bottle of makeup and there isn't the same warning there is on cigarettes or or the warning that we were kind of holding Johnson and Johnson's feet to the fire. There isn't. Now, why is that? Why are there? I mean, I guess that's true of anything. You can buy a soda that's got caramel coloring in it, right? Caramel coloring's on almost every carcinogenic list, and it's still in the food, but there isn't a warning on that either.
No, fragrance is a big hider. Like fragrance on a label is like a fragrance could be like 1,000 things. Like, so fragrance is one of the last bastions of super not clean. And because it's so synthetic, there's so many chemicals used to create a fragrance. So that's where like you have to shop ethically, like go someplace where there is a certain level of transparency. Because even as like wholesale, like unless you're a chemist, how are you going to know? You're not. You can make some better decisions. I was stocking and re-merchandising in like like Bed Bath and Beyond or grocery stores, the cosmetic area, like the like where L'Oreal and CoverGirl and all that stuff is, and like Target and all those places. And there were bags, and this was only a few years ago because I was just taking it to like hustle a little extra side money. There would be bags. They'd say, oh, get some brown paper bags from the checkout or whatever. And you'd mark them like damaged or discontinued. Or one was like a separate one where your like team leader had it. And it was stuff that was being pulled because it was being found toxic. And it was, I mean, I don't want to get in trouble, but like a basic, like L'Oreal foundation. I'm not saying L'Oreal has, but whatever. It would be something super basic, a foundation by a well-known brand, big brands, Maybelline, and they're pulling it from the shelves because they've found something about it is carcinogenic or a problem. And so they're getting it off the shelves before there's a massive lawsuit. And that's happening all over the place. And I think brands are trying to be better. I do. I mean, in my private utopia, I think some brands are trying to be better. But that's where these smaller brands where they're saying like, hey, so cruelty-free is another one. Is it cruelty-free? Okay, I make a product and it's cruelty-free. I don't right now, but I'm saying, so let's say I'm a maker. I make a product that's cruelty free, but I'm using ingredients that are cruelty free because the distributor of that ingredient is testing it on animals. So I am personally not testing it on animals. That ingredient has been tested on animals over here.
Yeah.
So some brands are getting into the place where they're saying it's cruelty free to the source. Like, we know that our source has gotten this, but at some point too, all of these things have been tested someplace on an animal somewhere in the history of time, because that's how we found out they weren't going to kill us. So
Right.
See what I'm saying? Like, it's like this crazy line where you have to say, like, I have to make, like, you're going on the list and saying, like, these are the things I don't want. You have to find what that is. Like,
Right.
we have a clean brand that we carry. The ingredients are clean. They are. They're consciously crafted. There are magnets in the packaging. It's not recyclable packaging. And it is one-time use packaging.
Yeah. So
Like, do you see what I'm saying? It's like,
Yeah.
okay, so it's beautiful, but it's going to kill the environment. It's going to be okay on your skin, but you are going to kill the environment.
Ugh. Well, there's,
I don't know.
Sam is feeling all the pressure. Look.
I know. I feel like
Oh my
now it's
God.
like
We're not
the
asking you
business.
to figure it all out now,
Right.
Sam. Okay.
Right? No,
Figure it out.
no.
I'm gonna start a business called Everything's Okay, which means everything involved is okay, and we sell like 3 things, and that's it.
Right. I mean, and every day understand that as a brand person, like, looking, every day I find something out. Like, so this was like last year I found out black plastic is really bad. Black plastic is harder to recycle. Like, I mean, come on. So, like, at some point, like, I have 2 brands that I adore, super clean, great brands, Ritual Defy, which is makeup, and Hayoma, which is like a clean, consciously driven skincare line. They have black plastic. So then one of them said,
used some Hayoma.
I know, I'm obsessed with it. I'm obsessed with it. And yet, then I talked to them about, they're like, well, we use previously used plastics. So then it's on its second life anyhow, and plastic can only be reused so many times. So we're reusing it and then it's going away.
Right.
So, I mean, I don't know, like, it's an overwhelming conversation. That's why I don't like getting too hung up on like this, that, or the other thing. I think we have to look at the overarching effect of, like, you want to make good choices for yourself. And you want to make good choices that make you feel okay. And just because, like I said, if you're a cancer survivor, that also doesn't mean that you have to look crappy because you can't get the things that you want, right? Like, I mean, look at me.
Look at me. Look at me.
You're beautiful. I'm looking. You're beautiful. So, I mean, I think these are important conversations to have, and that's what we want to do today. I think we want to open up a dialogue that says these are conversations we should be having, and that people should be aware. This is all about educating yourself before you make any decision, right? That's important of anything. I mean, even if you're in the cancer system, you should make an informed decision about what treatment's right for you. If you are buying your food, you should make an informed decision about what you're feeding yourself or your family. It's true of anything. Nobody ever said, I feel too educated, right?
No.
I feel like I just know too much about my food. Right?
I know too much. I am way too smart.
Yes, right. Oh my God.
No, nobody ever had that complaint in the history of complaints, right? So it doesn't hurt to get up to speed. Be educated about what you're putting in your body. Be educated about what you're doing in your lifestyle and your choices, and then make a decision. And I think that's what we're at. We're all talking about the same thing. There's a discussion to be had, and you should research your choices and not assume that the company selling it to you did that for you.
Yeah.
Right. The company selling it to you didn't do any research for you, or, I mean, you need to pick what's right for you, coming from a place that you are well informed. And I think,
and if you don't want to be well informed, that's okay too, honestly. But then go someplace where you feel like you're not going to be hijinxed, right? Like, so I don't like. some of it's really overwhelming, and it can be, you can't unring that bell once you know that like there are little kids in Africa mining your for your eyeshadow. Like, just, you're like, oh, every time I wear sparkly eyeshadow, I feel a little guilty. But knowing it at least is one step, right? So I can make better decisions about like, hey, does this glitter, is it biodegradable? Did it come from an ethical place? You know, you can, and maybe it can't be everything, but I can at least make better choices. And if I go someplace and shop someplace where I feel like people are at least respectful, or at least trying to understand, and that's where I think when you have those issues and those concerns, you don't have to just put it on yourself. Like, it doesn't have to be just you.
Yeah.
But you can talk.
It gets easier once you start. Once you start thinking
Yeah.
that way,
Yeah.
you start like reading labels in grocery stores and stuff like that, and finding a place that you can shop where you know that the people there are educated, and start talking to educated people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's other people who know stuff.
There's other people that know stuff. Exactly. I mean, it's like, why do you hire a lawyer? You hire a lawyer because you need help sorting something out, right?
Right. They know the law. I don't need to know the law.
No. And I know lawyers who hire lawyers, right?
Yeah.
Because they're a lawyer and they need a lawyer because their law is different than that law. Like, so like, it always helps to talk to people and to understand and not be afraid, right? Like I said, one Twinkie isn't going to kill you.
Yeah.
It's not. It's just not. One Twinkie is not going to kill you. But a Twinkie every day, twice a day, that might not be so good.
I just have to point out that Kathleen's talked about Twinkies about 4 times in this interview. I think,
and I haven't had one.
Your guilty pleasure.
I don't know. Actually, I feel like now I do want a Twinkie, but I do like cake. I like cake a lot. So I had a donut today.
Yeah.
And I felt really guilty about it. But there's this bake shop that makes the cider mill donuts all the time. And they're so good. I know, they're really good. And so I went and got one today. They're so good. And I feel like such a fatty pause right now, but they're so worth it. Such a fatty pause. And again, this is part of the conversation, right? Like, I don't know. Like, there's only so much you can do in your life. Like, I started this second store and I was driving to work and I was super exhausted and I had some personal stuff going on. And so I would stop at this bakery like every day for my drive home and get 2 donuts. And then my pants kind of stopped fitting. And I was like, damn it, it's those donuts. But it was so self-soothing to me to have those 2 donuts. And do you know what? I just gave myself grace and was like, okay, whatever. I need to stop with the donuts, but I'll stop when I'm ready. Okay. And you know what I did? And today it's been probably like 3 or 4 months since I've had one. And so I went and got one today and it's okay. I only had one.
That's right.
But you know, you can't beat yourself up over, like, you know, there's only so much in your life. You can't do everything. You cannot control everything. You cannot do everything. You cannot be everything to everybody, including yourself. And you have to be kind to yourself. I heard this thing today. This guy was talking. He'd seen an image on Instagram of this person leaning against a tree, like with their hands in their lap. And the quote underneath it was, "You'll never talk to someone else as much as you talk to yourself in your head." So why don't you talk kindly to yourself, right? Like, we're so obsessed with talking kindly to somebody else or to each other. Like, if your friend said, "I'm so bad, I'm eating all these donuts," you'd be like, "Don't, stop being so hard on yourself. You're okay. You're going through a lot. Like, don't worry about it. You know, you're going to be fine." Do we say that to ourselves?
Nope.
Seriously, no. And you know,
you, Toni?
No, I think I like you're saying, I think I'm probably my hardest critic. But I also think, I think Chris Chris Walk, the author, he does Crispy Cancer. He says one thing that really resonates for me, though. He says 100% is easy, 90% is really hard, right? So for me, 100% of like sticking to the kind of foods that I eat, that's easy, because I'm not having, cake or candy, or even though that Kit Kat bar may beckon to me when I'm online at the register and it's doing its old, hello, my old friend. Do you miss me? Even though it's calling to me, I still, if I cross the line, here's the problem for me. If I have the Kit Kat and I don't drop dead the next day, in my mind, it's a license to like
To have
open
more.
up, to open up and keep going
Right.
back for it. So for me, 100% is easy. So
Yeah.
I've trained myself kind of like the little mouse, right, that gets the electric shock when he turns left, right? I've trained myself that anytime I see something like that, I imagine myself being wheeled into the operating room or being hooked up to chemo, and that's like, and I'm like, okay, keep the Kit Kat, right? Because I don't want to go back and do it. So it's easy for me to do, in my mind, to go 100% I'm in. But as soon as I start deviating from that, I don't think I can do 90%. So that's just how my brain works. I mean, it's not any better or worse than, I do agree with you. You have to, I think if you make a mistake or you have a bad day or you do something that's not so great that day, yeah. Do I think you have to say, I'm going to hit the reset button on today and I'll wake up tomorrow as a new day? I agree with you. I'm totally down with that. Sometimes you have to hit the reset button and you can't beat yourself up because, right, unless you have a time machine, you're not going to be able to undo whatever happened. So whatever you did that you're not happy with, I agree. Hit the reset button and tomorrow's a new day. You start all over again. But am I walking into, I won't take the mindset like, okay, I'm going to be good with myself today and to humor myself today and feel better. I'm going in for a banana split and that's all. But I can't do that for myself mentally. At least when it comes to food, I have to I stick to what I eat.
I wish I could do that. But honestly, we all have our thing, right? Like I can stick 100% to other things, but not to that. We all have our thing, right? Where we can like toe the line or not toe the line or whatever. And then you get into mental health issues and you get into, I mean, it's where that compassion comes to play, right? That you see each person and their struggle and recognize that that's, you're just there for them. You're there to make, like I said, we like to present ourselves as a mirror. Like we want you to see the best version of yourself, whatever that means to you. It has nothing to do with me. What is it for you? What is it for you? And we're our harshest critics. So if somebody's reflecting that like beauty and confidence back to you, it's a lot easier to find that comfort in yourself and not judge yourself for the whatever it was, the stress, the workout you didn't do, the donut you ate, the whatever it was, right? It makes it a lot easier.
Yep. Big advocate of the reset button.
Yeah. And we have to. We have to.
So tell viewers and the people listening and watching, how can they find out about you and about your store and maybe order your products?
So it's London Beauty Online is the website. Follow on Instagram is the same way. So it's all on there and it all comes to us. And obviously we're in Ann Arbor and in Brighton. So people can stop in and say hi anytime. And now that we can travel again, maybe I'll see people out in the world. I keep saying I wanted to go be Sam's makeup artist for her photo shoot. So one of these days for her next series, right? But yeah, so London Beauty Online, and you'll find us. So
good. We'll put the link up as well.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry to see the interview end. It was really great.
It was really fun. Yeah, and it's a fun conversation, and it's a multi-layered conversation, right? Because it gets into so many aspects of our being. So it's fun. And that's why it's fun to play in this world. For sure.
Agreed. Well, thank you. I want to thank my co-host, Samantha Jones for being here with me today, who always brings a lot of pizzazz to everything she does. And I want to thank Kathleen London and not only for being here, but giving us so much of her time. The interview went way over.
Oh gosh, yeah.
But I appreciate so much talking, again, an important conversation to have from somebody who's just doing a fabulous job at what she does.
Thank
So,
you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And we're going to say goodbye and have a great day.
Bye.
All right. Bye. Downstairs area.
Oh, it's
Nice.
so cool. Isn't that nice?
Dave, hi, Brianne. And then all the doors have London Tube symbol names. So like that one's Shorted.
Kathleen, is that the new store?
Uh-huh.
Oh my God.
And then, because, you know, we're not MI5, we're MI6.
Oh.
So my office is MI6.
I love it. Oh
And then
gosh.
the store's upstairs.
Oh my gosh, it looks so good.
So that's the spa. That's the basement, downstairs, lower level, whatever you want to. So we're going to rename the spa the Underground Spa.
Yeah.